night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends on where you are connected with us. My name is Emmanuel Adigbola, and I'm so excited to be on this show once again today. And I'm not alone. Of course, I have my co-host with me right here in the studio, and there won't be co-host without the host. So definitely the host is here. That is why the co-hosts are here. And we also have a guest, as usual, that we are expecting to join us any moment from now. So while we are getting that ready, let me bring in my co-host, Mr. Alex, to say hello to you and introduce himself. Over to you, Mr. Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Alex Mahiri. I'm his co-host, and we are here once again to give you your normal tonic, health tonic. Thank you very much.
Awesome, awesome. And of course, with standing ovation while you are seated or you are driving or anything you are doing, let's welcome the host of Kina Earth Show as she introduces today's topic and just kick off the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kina Health Show. Um, Today, we are going to continue our discussion on cancer. Incidentally, March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. If you all recall, in February was World Cancer Day, and we looked at different types of cancer. But this particular show, we're going to be devoting time on colorectal cancer, how you can combat or reduce the devastation in the society. Welcome to the show.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, we are waiting for our guest, but while we are expecting him to connect, I believe the host herself has what it takes to take care of some of the questions we have while we are waiting also for our guest. So we just go through our questions and we cover whatever we can cover. And please just bear in mind that this is not a radio show. Even radio show these days it's two-way communication. You can dial into the radio station, you can call, you can do all sort of things. So this is supposed to be a two-way communication. So please do us a favor, like this video. If you are watching this on YouTube, subscribe to this YouTube channel, leave your comment, and if you are watching this on Facebook, all it takes you is just a click. Click that button right there, share the video, and leave your comment. God bless you as we continue with this. So, Mr. Alex, I'm going to hand over to you, and let's see how far we can go.
Okay. Thank you very much. Like you said, this is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And like she also observed last time on this program, we were focusing on all various types of cancers. And incidentally, the foundation which she runs and which is chief executive focuses on cancer, how to prevent it, how to ameliorate those who have the impact of cancer. So today while we wait for our guest, like you say, she is competent enough to talk about certain aspects of colorectal cancer because she has been involved, she was a victim, and she has done some studies in that area. So, but let me also start by asking her, because she has a passion for colorectal cancer, fighting it all the time. She started her foundation because of it, and she has been relentlessly fighting that cause. So, Kina, why is it that you really started with colorectal cancer? And why have you continued to battle that cancer till date?
Well, thank you for that question. Exactly 10 years ago, my late husband, David, died of colon cancer. David was barely 51 years old by the time he was diagnosed of colon cancer. So back then, the screening for colon cancer was only recommended for 50 years and above. So you would think at 51, that he probably wouldn't become a victim of colon cancer, but he did. So after his death, I realized that because of the same issue of the age, that you could get colon cancer prior to age 50, which is the age for where the screening should start. I realized that people in our community, we are not very aware of this particular cancer and do not know what it takes to get the screening or will not get screening. So that's how um, David Omeluko Foundation was created to create awareness about the dangers of colon cancer, how to go about getting the screening, when to get the screening, and advocate for those that are unable to get those screenings due to financial issues or other reasons, and educate people more on education because there's a lot of ignorance about colorectal cancer.
Yeah, that's a very good recap. And I want to believe that this mission you started, you must have garnered a lot of experiences. A lot of people initially, like you said, were not aware. And those who were aware were not even sure what to do, how to get about it. And having done this mission for a number of times, what are your experiences? What have you discovered? Has there been any noticeable change in people's behavior and attitude? Or are you still thinking that people were where they were at that time because people really didn't know much? So, what would you say from your experiences and from your mission and your journey so far? What is your assessment?
So having done this for over 7 years, um, people have really beginning to understand that cancer is very dangerous and that cancer can hit any moment, any time, any age. So from my experiences, I've noticed that people have shifted a little bit more on getting their screenings done. There's still a lot of education to go around. Every day there are new people in your life or in the community that may not have gotten any of that information. So it is a continuous process. We can't stop, you can't relent. So you just have to keep spreading the word, creating the awareness. We in the past 7 years found a facility where people could go to get free colonoscopy, and I realized that a lot of people utilize those facility, whether they went through me or told me or didn't tell me, but I've come to realize that a lot of people have used those facilities and we have saved a lot of lives, not just here, but back in Nigeria as well. In Nigeria, colon cancer wasn't one of those type of cancers that were very known. In the last 10 years, it has become one of the top four cancers that are very bothersome in Nigeria. So there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
Let
Well,
me let me quickly
okay, Ma,
just
go
chip
ahead.
this in. Let me just quickly chip this in. By the way, we your efforts are really, really appreciated by, I believe, by God, by universe, by people for what you are doing. So if you could just, brief our viewers and either someone is connected live or watching the replay of this uh, presentation, what will you say have been your challenges?
Um, One of the biggest challenge is actually funding because you can go about creating awareness, gathering people, or even doing the screening without funds. And another big challenge is people not believing that there is even anything called cancer due to either religious belief or cultural belief. They believe in voodoo, or somebody did it to them, or it was planted, or it's not my portion, which is a popular one. If you say cancer, they will say it's not my portion. And unfortunately, it's everybody's portion if we don't take the right steps, to curb, or change lifestyles, so that we can feed ourselves, the cells in the body, better nutrition, and do have certain habits or curb certain habits that can actually be risk factors for developing cancers in the body. I believe every one of us have cancer cells in the body. That is our behaviors and other risk factors that can make those cancers, become real diseases. So it is, those are some of the challenges that we run into, is financial, cultural, spiritual, and a few other things.
All right. Okay, Mr. Alex.
Okay. The cultural factors, particularly when you say not my portion, is a very important factor because it's still not going away. And people also live in denial. They don't want even to begin to think about it. Sometimes they want to tell you that this is a white man's disease. But alas, they have forgotten too that we're not eating the white man's food. We're eating the white man's food and mixing with it, doing everything the white man does. So in the face of that, because that will be obstructing the impact you want to achieve, you have a target. You want to reduce the scourge. You want to stop people from dying. You don't want people to pass through what you pass through. So in the face of these daunting challenges, what do you think is a way out? Because we are not going to allow that to continue.
Well, as part of our mission to create awareness, we are not only creating awareness about the dangers of cancer, but we're also creating awareness about the risk factors of, what causes this cancer. So we employ other use educational ways to educate people on how to improve their eating habits, lifestyles, and the things that they need to avoid or decrease to help them to curb, the incidences of cancer. So, including your diet and exercise. Eating a lot of fiber is a great way of improving your GI system to flow better, and is a healthy way of eating that will, help you not just for to prevent cancer, but to prevent majority of the diseases in the body, both physical and mental. And yes, I said diet
Yes.
and exercise are great therapy for both your physical and your mental well-being.
Wow. Well, that's very, very resourceful right there. I see Dr. Gara right there. Can you hear my
Yes.
voice very clearly?
Yes, I can. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry there was some technical difficulties in connecting, but now I'm in the show. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
you're welcome.
All
It's good to have you here. Oh, don't remove that. I love that.
good. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Alex, over to you.
Yeah, Dr. Goa, you're welcome to the program. And like we are already looking at, there were certain issues we were really trying to get through before your arrival. For instance, Kina's passion on colorectal cancer, the
Yes.
foundation, the origin, why she went into that area, her experiences, what she's been doing, what she found out, and some of the efforts she's making to make people buy into it, because we're meeting a lot of cultural challenges, people not even believing there's anything like that, people thinking it's a white man's disease, and that's where we were. But
Good.
now that we are here, let's go get continue from where we stopped. But from your own angle, this month is known as is devoted to this particular cancer, colorectal cancer awareness month. So why
Yes.
do you think it was necessary to create a month for this level of awareness for this particular cancer?
So the thing is, colorectal cancer. I must say, it needs a lot of awareness, and the reason is, if you can find this colorectal cancer in early stages means stage 1 to stage 3. If you can find and detect these patients early, they are almost 90% curable by surgery and by chemotherapy. So, this awareness month, the whole idea is so that the people can start doing screening and start detecting these cancers early. Colorectal cancer was one of the early cancers which was studied in a very, very nice way, scientific way. And it has a very good story to start with. The colorectal cancer, if you see, it goes in very defined stages inside the body, inside the colon and the rectum. And they start with a small polyp, then polyp grows over time, and then polyp eventually becomes dysplastic. First is just a benign polyp, then it becomes dysplastic. That means these cells become a little bit more erratic, and they start dividing more erratic, and then eventually these cells develop into cancer. So we can either detect these things in the stage of polyps or before the cancer develops, uh, or even after we have the cancer. It could be stage 1, 2, or 3, just limited to the colon. And as long as it's limited to the colon, this can be, like I said, 90% curable by surgery and chemotherapy. So the whole idea of this whole month is to increase this awareness so that people can get screening colonoscopies and get cured. And
Dr.
over
Agarwal,
time, we have seen the mortality of this colorectal cancer has gone down because of these steps we take in our community.
Dr. Agrawal, I have a follow-up question. Does it mean that all polyps will eventually turn into cancer?
So, so in medicine, we never say always and never. So, same thing. Not all polyps will develop into cancer. So sometimes what happens, these polyps may just develop and they just fall off. We don't even know. But some of these polyps eventually might develop into cancer. Not all. Again, and we don't even have the numbers actually that 50% will develop into cancer, but the cancer starts from the polyp stage most of the time. There are some de novo cancers which can start without the polyp stage, but most of the time it starts in the polyp stage.
So it's quite important to identify these polyps on
The
time
answer
and
to that thing
take
is
them
not all
out.
polyps will develop into cancer. Yes.
So that's why it's important
Yes,
to
and once you
get
identify the
them
polyp,
back.
you can see what kind of polyp it is. It could be totally benign adenoma, which will not probably get into cancer. But then there are dysplastic polyps, which we know will eventually get into cancer. So it's very important to remove these polyps and do a histopathological examination. And the thing is, the story is so nice that every 3 to 5 years. So we know if we do the colonoscopy every 3 to 5 years, we will pick up these polyps which are more likely to develop into cancer.
Okay, doctor, well, let us talk about both colon cancer and rectal cancer. Are they equally dangerous? Was the dividing line?
So the whole colon has several parts. One is it starts from the cecum on the right side, then it goes into the ascending colon, which is on the right side, and then it goes into a transverse colon, which goes across the body from right to left, and then it descends on the left side. It's called descending colon. Eventually, this colon it goes into rectum. The demarcating line between the colon and the rectum is the peritoneal reflection where the peritoneum, the rectum part, the peritoneum does not cover that part of the colon, is the rectum. So that's the differentiating line between the real colon and the rectum. And the significance of this is the rectal cancer is spread in a little different way because there is no peritoneum. So it spreads to a different set of lymph nodes. It goes to different places. Sometimes more likely to go into the liver. than the colon cancer. Eventually, colon cancer also goes to the liver, but the rectal cancer, because it has no peritoneal lining, which kind of is a protective lining, is not there. Its chances of spread a little bit more with rectal cancer. And the treatment is also a little bit different because of these anatomic differences. The treatment for rectal cancer is a little different from the colon cancer. And most of the time, the rectal cancer, because it spreads much faster locally and may go to distant lymph nodes, like to the iliac lymph nodes and sometimes even to the inguinal lymph nodes or to the liver, we use way more radiation therapy to sterilize this area in the rectum as compared to the colon. But the dividing
So,
line is the peritoneal reflection.
awesome. So let me ask, so what are the early signs and symptoms of colorectal cancer, if I may ask?
Yes, that's a very good question, and everyone should know it. All the audience should know it. And the biggest first sign is change in bowel habits. So either they develop constipation if the lesion is too big and is obstructing the whole colon, or they can even get diarrhea because of the obstruction. The depending on which part of the colon the cancer is, they initially starts obstructing, but what happens is when the contents of the gut pass through the colon, more and more water is getting absorbed. So they become, by the time it comes to the descending colon and to the rectum, the contents of the feces are more solid. Before that, in the transverse and ascending colon, the contents are still liquid. So once the obstruction develops in the transfer colon or the ascending colon, you might even get diarrhea because the stool has no time to form in a solid way. So sometimes they get diarrhea, sometimes they get constipation. So main thing is the change in the bowel habits of the thing. Second thing is abdominal pain. And then third thing is people may start having nausea, vomiting, and they start losing weight. And another very important thing in the colon cancer is they start having some bloody stools. Uh, so that is one of the tests we do in early diagnosis of colon cancer. There is a blood in the stool test.
Okay, Mr. Alex.
Yeah, Dr. Goa, in the past, everybody, including government and insurance companies, had given a lot of preference in terms of both sourcing for resources and treatment to adults. There was little or no attention being paid to infants, the younger ones. But recent experience has shown that the younger ones are becoming victim of this cancer. And if this is anything to go by, it is also sad to
So,
note the insurance companies have not even adjusted in terms of providing because they have not adjusted their age limit. So, what is your reaction to that?
so the thing is, most of the time, the colon cancer is it happens because, like I said, from polyp to cancer stages. Most of the time, it happens. The diagnosis is in 50s. So that is where the colonoscopy is recommended at 50s. It can happen in young patients also, and this is mostly is because of the family history or hereditary polyposis. There are certain conditions where they have these genetic mutations early on, which can cause colon cancer. So if you have a family history, a strong family history of colon cancer, these are the patients they need to be screened much early, and sometimes as early as in 20s. But if you don't have a family history, chances of having a colon cancer early stage, earlier in the life, is much lower. So society, they don't younger patients except when they have some kind of strong family history.
Dr. Gowal, I have a follow-up question on that. Do you still hold the same view with the recent trend in young adults less than in their 20s and 30s being diagnosed with colorectal cancer?
So colonoscopy again is, I mean, it's not a very benign procedure. It's an invasive procedure. So all these things, they're whenever we are doing all these kind of screening tests, we always look at the benefit and risk ratios in these things. So if I do like colonoscopy of 100 people in adults, there is a much higher chance of finding colon cancer. I'll have to probably do a colonoscopy in almost 10,000 kids before I'll find probably one, or maybe less than that. So the incidence is so small that it does not justify colonoscopy. Easier thing to do is in these patients is if there is anything is a stool test for blood, occult blood. But invasive procedures we don't recommend unless the yield is higher. So the yield for these young patients is not that high that we can recommend a screening colonoscopy for everyone at this time. I mean, it may change in future. And now there are ways of doing the colonoscopy without invasive. There are with AI and artificial intelligence, we can see the whole colon most of the time without even subjecting them to colonoscopy. So those tools are also happening. But right now, the recommendation is, and I kind of agree with those recommendations, unless you have a strong family history that you don't need a colonoscopy in at least less than 40. Some people have started doing in 40s as well, but most of the time, again, the recommendation is still 50s.
All right. So, well, we have David Dominico Foundation representative all the way from Nigeria connected with us, and I believe, he just disappeared again. So, oh my God. Okay. So, Mr. Alex, continue while we wait for him
So,
to be back.
yeah, Dr. Goa, we've been talking about this cancer. It is it falls into what
Yeah,
you've been doing for some time.
you,
What are
you,
the what are the
you,
complications? What are the complications when you have this disease? What are the complications you have experienced?
Okay. Yeah. So if again, like I said, the initial stages you just have anemia, loss of blood in the stools, nausea, vomiting, constipation. But once you cure it, then there are no complications. But if you let it go and it goes to stage 4, which means it has spread outside the colon into the liver, away from the regional lymph nodes, then all the complications start, which include weight loss, again, pain in the abdomen, asthenia, nausea, anorexia, uh, and eventually, I mean, if you don't treat it, these people die from this disease. Still,
All
we lose
right.
quite a few patients with colon cancer every year. I don't have the exact number right now, but we still lose with the stage because they don't get diagnosed early. They get diagnosed in stage 4, and once it goes to stage 4, then most of the time this cancer is not curable.
I just to add, I think we're still in the number of about 50,000 50,000 people die every year in the United States from colorectal cancer.
Yes.
Well, we have Dr. Bright with us before he disappears again. I believe we should just hear from him. Can you just go ahead and say hello to our viewers while Mr. Alex also get the question ready for you? Can you hear me? Hello, Dr. Bright, can you hear me? Okay, we wait again for him. I believe he will be back. So over to you again, Mr. Alex.
Yeah, Dr. Agoa, from your experience, what are the factors that predisposes one to the disease? What are the
The
predisposing
thing
factors?
that predisposed to colorectal cancer is less roughage in the diet. This colon cancer, as compared to in India and probably even Nigeria, is not probably as common because we have a lot of roughage in our diet, which is a lot of time it is plant-based diet. Over here, I think it's mostly protein-based, high protein diet with mostly red meat and um, it's most like a meat-based diet. So it's one of the biggest risk factors is the roughage in the diet.
Okay, so Dr. Bright, are you with us now? Dr. Bright, can you hear me? Okay. We've made 3 attempts, and okay, let's continue. So, Dr. Kina, do you have any follow-up question for Dr. Gal?
So Dr. Agarwal was, I think the question he asked, what predisposes people to colorectal cancer? And he talked about roughage, that's fiber and diet, sedentary life, and of course, genetics. If you had a family member that has had colon cancer in the past, you need to get screened earlier. And so those are some of other things that predisposes people to colorectal cancer.
All right. So, Mr. Alex, over to you.
So we haven't looked at what predisposes people. Can we now go to talk about people who have it already? Can they be managed? I mean, you have made a mistake, you didn't get screened, and the thing has entered and is spreading. So what do they do?
Sorry, I think there was a breakup in the question.
Okay, my question is, we've been talking about how to get this thing prevented, how
Oh,
to know the early signs, but if somebody is already a victim and is already suffering from it, what does he do? Is there any hope?
yes. So, like I said, if you can find this cancer early, almost 85 to 90% cure rate in this cancer. So first thing is, as soon as you find the cancer, you have to see a cancer doctor right away. The cancer doctor at that point becomes your quarterback, and he's going to direct your whole care. The second step is, once you have made the diagnosis by colonoscopy and a histopathological diagnosis, the next step is staging. And we do the PET scan, we do CAT scan just to make sure that it's not spread. One of the tumor markers we see is one of the tumor markers we see is called CEA level. So we monitor that marker as we go along. And once you have the staging done, then the next part is the treatment. And the treatment is, in early stages, is always surgery first, and this is followed. The surgery is followed by, in stage 3, what we call is adjuvant chemotherapy. And for the rectal cancer, we also add radiation therapy in the treatment protocols.
Okay, so I have a quick question. So, how can this be prevented if there's any? I know we talk about exercise, we talk about diet, but is there any, like, okay, general prevention that one? I mean, sometimes we say prevention is better than cure, right? So, how can this disease be prevented?
I think Dr. Agrawal has, I guess, stepped away. But okay, here he is. Dr. Agrawal, do you want to respond?
So the best, I mean, only way you can prevent, I think, the colorectal cancer is by increasing the roughage in your diet as much as you can, and just routine colonoscopy. There is no other way you can prevent it except for high roughage diet.
You want to add to that, Dr. K?
Well, yeah, in addition to other healthy lifestyles that we have
Yes.
mentioned before, like stopping
Yes.
cigarette smoking, having ideal body weight, obesity is a risk factor, exposure to radiation, and just living healthy life, have,
Very important
BMI.
factors. And yeah, healthy lifestyle, no one can argue with that. So, I mean, it's important for pretty much all the cancer prevention.
And prayer.
And prayer.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
prayer is always good.
But Agua, I don't know whether you are in a position to assess from there's something you said about the prevalence of cancer in developing countries, in Africa, in India, and here. But I don't know whether that assessment is still holding water with what has happened in globalization of the international system and what our people are almost eating what the white man is eating. Will you suggest or will you accept the fact that the numbers are beginning to equal? What is going on up there is almost what is going on here in terms of victims.
That is so true. I mean, I get more these days. I get quite a few calls from even from India about this colorectal cancer. When I was in India 30 years ago, I barely ever saw colorectal cancer. It was only when I came here I started seeing so many patients with colorectal cancer. But I think the diet in other developing countries is changing, and as the diet is changing, we are seeing a different set of problems, which includes more breast cancer, more colorectal cancer, and even more lung cancers. So you're absolutely right. I think there are a lot of efforts going on at the WHO level in increasing the awareness about this cancer. Um, are they enough? Probably not. I mean, they need to develop more resources for, especially for these developing countries, um, to take care of this menace.
Indeed.
Now,
Oh,
we have a number of people who have survived from not only from colorectal cancer, from other
so,
types of
sorry, let
cancer.
me cut you, Mr. Alex. Sorry,
Okay.
I think Dr. Bright is stable again. So let's quickly take advantage of that to hear from Dr. Bright. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Awesome, awesome. Wow, finally. So you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers and what your role is with David Domenico Foundation?
Okay, thank you. Bright Ugochukwu is my name. I'm the executive director for David Emenoko Foundation, and I'm glad to be on the show. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. So we have a question here for you, and the question that I mean, we have some questions that have been waiting for you anyway to arrive. So let me just shoot you one of them. So the question says, "What has been your experience and findings in your screening for colorectal cancer in Nigeria?" Have you gone again? Oh my God. Okay, so I mean that question needs to be addressed. So I believe the CEO and the founder of David Domenico Foundation can answer that question. Why? Or are you back? Dr. Bright, are you back? I see you blinking your eyes. So that definitely that's not freezing. Are you back? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you come again, sir?
So the question is, what has been your experience and your findings and challenges in your screening exercise in Nigeria? Did you
Can
get
you
that?
hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. We can.
Yes, we can hear you. Oh no. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Kina. I mean, you should be able to. You have inside out of what. Although you've answered one of the questions talking about the challenges, but I don't think we've talked about the experiences, right?
Well, yeah. Well, part of our experience, part of the challenges that we face, people not, people being in denial, people, the spiritual reasons, cultural reasons. Spiritual is not my portion; it can't happen to me. And some people believe more in their pastors than in what the medical diagnosis that they're getting. And of course, there's little or no facility back there for screening people. People don't even know what colon cancer is, lack of education, ignorance. And when they do want to get those screenings done, there is no place for them. And there's lack of funding. People can barely put food on the table. not to talk about using 100,000 naira to go get a colonoscopy done. And when they find there is colon cancer, then treatment is another issue. In the whole of Nigeria, just recently a few areas with radiotherapy machine. Just probably there were only seven radiotherapy equipments in the whole of the country, and many times they are not even functional. People will travel from the eastern part of Nigeria to go to the north or the west, and go through all the challenges or road hazards and challenges to go get treatment. And when they get there, the equipment is not working. They have to find a hotel or accommodation, plus the lack of funds in order to get taken care of. So all the emotional trauma that people go through in order to seek for treatment in many parts of Nigeria is just a huge, huge challenge. And in the process of it, a lot of people die, even when it's found in early stages. But most of the time, it's found in later stages because people don't get, there's no health care, there is no preventive care, there is no screening. And I mean, it's just a vicious circle. And it's just a very sad, sad situation back there.
Wow. This what. So, Dr. Gara, have you been to Nigeria before?
Sorry, you break up.
Yeah, I asked, have you been to Nigeria before?
Oh, not yet. That is my next on the bucket list. But I
Oh,
did. I'm reading a book by one of the very famous authors. Her name is Miss Chimananda, and I'm reading the book. That is a very popular author, and I have a couple of other books from her. I'm going to read. One is called Purple Hibiscus. So before I go to Nigeria, I want to get a little bit more about the culture and everything. Even though I know so
Awesome.
many people here, so
Awesome.
but this is an awesome book I'm going through right now.
Awesome. Awesome. Someone told me that you can also spend
Yeah,
many
you,
years
yeah.
reading a book on how to swim. But of course, it's only when you get to the river before you swim. So it's when you get to Nigeria physically that you will see it.
Yes, and it looks like she's a very popular author, Miss Nagoji Chiman.
mm-hmm.
Have you heard
Awesome.
her
Yes,
name?
yes, she is.
Yes,
Chimamanda.
yes, and
Yes,
I listened to a
he's a
couple of
great,
her.
he's a
Uh,
great
uh,
author.
I
Podcast.
listened to a couple of her TED talks. They're very,
Yeah,
very powerful.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Dr. Kina, so what will it entail by the foundation to fly somebody like Dr. Agawa and maybe some other medical team to Nigeria for this kind of exercise that we have been talking about?
Well, for Dr. Agarwal to go to Nigeria to help situations there, it will require a lot of groundwork. You have to, if you're talking about colonoscopy, which he probably has some other um, colleagues that do that part because he is an oncologist. He will do the treatment, but it requires having the facility up and running. Before you could take some medical professionals over there to help us, and they're all quite willing to go. But you just have to water the ground and prepare
You
the.
know, another thing is besides this thing colonoscopy. Now there is a stool test that you can collect the stool sample and send it for, and they can detect in the stool test some of these cancer cells if they're shedding the cancer cells. So they're able to test just from the stool sample the cancer cells, and if that is positive, then only these days some of these patients go for colonoscopy. So that is another test that has been now getting more and more popular in this setting.
Yeah, we actually do those with all our medical missions. We do fecal occult tests. Yes, so those are
No,
available.
there's another, besides the fecal occult test, there's another test they give you, they send you a little small bucket to collect the 24-hour stool, and then you send
Cologuard,
the whole, yes, Cologuard.
Cologuard, yes. and they're
Yes.
quite expensive for right now. So
Yes.
that's an area for us to explore too.
Yes, and that can be easily done anywhere, including Nigeria and India, where they can just send the sample to a central lab from anywhere, and that can be tested for the thing.
Wow, wow. Well,
So, so
And that
Dr.
is,
Emmanuel, to answer your question, so those all require funding and the facility where they can be
yes,
tested.
that's true. That is true. Yes.
well, so to our viewers, I mean, you've heard it all. So let's say in case you want to sponsor the foundation or you want to sponsor the professionals for this exercise, the number is displaying right on the screen. Or maybe you are there also, you just want to be a part of the medical team and you want to find out more information, how you can help, how you can participate in everything we're talking about. So the number also is displaying on the screen. You can just get in touch with Dr. Kina or Mr. Alex through that number. So while we are tidying up right now, is there any other question or anything Dr. Gawa wants to say to our viewers? Any any word, any
Yeah, Dr. Goa, just one last question for you. How do you really integrate survivors and then manage them and make them become normal so that they don't live in fear? Do you have is there a process?
So, I mean, after they've gone through the chemotherapy, radiation, like I said, the cure rate is pretty high. We follow these patients initially every 4 months and test their CA level, one of the cancer tests. And then after 2 years, the chance of recurrence is very small. And then we go and follow up like every 6 months after that. And once they pass 5 year mark, we just see them once a year, and sometimes I just let them go to their primary care physician.
wow.
The gastroenterologist, they also have another schedule. They follow their schedule for colonoscopies. Initially, they do it 1 year after the thing, and then they do, I think, 3 years later, and then every 5 years. So there is a schedule we follow to prevent this recurrence, and that is
Awesome.
only happens in about, like I said, between 10 and 20% patients at the moment.
Awesome. That's good.
Dr. Agowal, I have a question about the Cologuard. How reliable is it? And would you recommend people to take Cologuard instead of colonoscopy?
So this is a very, very, very good question. Uh, and the thing is, you're right. I mean, if it is positive, it is like a lot of tests. If it's positive, then it is very. I mean, you have to get a That is the big with this test. If it is negative, then I think you can wait for a colonoscopy.
And
And some of these patients, they have like you're in America and you see these patients who are with obesity, a lot of medical problems. They cannot go through those colonoscopies, and they can have some serious side effects from the colonoscopy. So these are the patients we strongly recommend Cologuard first. But
I
you're
mean,
right. It is the sensitivity and the specificity of this test is still in the it's work in progress.
I have a friend that recently had a Cologuard done. She did the test and it was normal. And I pushed her to go get a colonoscopy. Sure enough, she had a couple of polyps.
Yes, and that is yeah. Polyps is still like in very early stages, and most of the time, like I said, it could be benign polyps, and they will not be picked up by the. Again, you're right that still colonoscopy is the gold standard. Still, Cologuard is just like I said for people like in India or this thing where the colonoscopy facilities are not there. You can collect the sample somewhere in the anywhere in the village or any place, and they can just mail it, or someone can pick it up or something. So I mean that's something easy to do. But I mean polyps again, from the polyp to cancer, it may take 5 to 10 years.
All right. Well, it's been an awesome topic and the conversation and discussion once again. But as I always ask, just in case somebody is watching us and this person wants to go on with just a word, what would that be from Dr. Agara? What will just in a second, what will you say to our viewers in just one word?
So, have high roughage in your diet, as much salad as you can, and get a colonoscopy after 50. First colonoscopy at 50, and then, depending on the polyps, they can do
Awesome,
subsequent.
awesome. And Mr. Alex, what will you say your take home is today?
Or watch yourself very well, look for the risk factors, and consult your physician.
Awesome. And once again, it's another time, and I enjoyed the session personally. And over to you, the host, Dr. Kina Omenoko.
Well, it has been another wonderful show, and I want to thank every one of our viewers from all over the world. I'm asking you to please send in your questions. That way, we can address your needs and your concerns. But as always, the most important thing is making sure that you make sure you see your doctor every year so that you can get the preventive care screenings done. um, Follow your doctor's recommendation, live a healthy lifestyle, decrease your risk for just about all the diseases have the same mostly risk factors: diet, exercise, and is very, very important to curb, most of these diseases. So stay well and take care of yourselves. We'll see you on another episode.
Thank you.